and Candace is going to run the show today. So take it away.
Well, we still like to hear what's happened this week and what things that you have to report that are good, what you're grateful for. And when you do say something that's been a success for you, for the newer agents, would you mind saying how long you've been working at this? I think that'll be helpful so that people realize it doesn't happen just like, boom, one day you're an agent, the next day you close business and you made $50,000. So who would like to share?
Come on now.
I have something I can share. It's not a success, but it was sort of an experience and a learning experience.
That works.
I went to a FSBO open house on Saturday, and there was another agent there, a Keller Williams agent from Midtown. I guess he was there for the open house or hosting the open house, because that's how he acted. But it was amazing to me how uninformed, I guess, the FSBO was, because I asked her some questions, about the community association disclosure, and I asked her if she had a seller's property disclosure. I asked her questions about, the systems and the age of the roof, and whether she was, flexible on maybe helping out with closing costs if, a buyer needed assistance with closing costs. And she was like a deer in the headlights. It was kind of enlightening to me. So it shows that there's definitely a need there with FSBOs. They just seem very like they're not sure what they're doing.
So the owner was the one that had all those that wasn't clueless, or that was didn't have that information, or what?
Yeah,
what did the other agent do?
The agent just sat there, and I felt like I really probably helped him out a lot, because he didn't say a word. He just sat there at the table as I was having a conversation with her. This FSBO is extremely overpriced, and I think she thinks she can get like $100,000 more than the house that's on the market in the same neighborhood, because she has an unfinished basement. That's the only difference I could see. So it was pretty enlightening.
So do you have any plans for following up?
Yeah, I sent her a handwritten note on Saturday, and I used Paige's little wax seal on the back of it to kind of give it a unique twist. And yeah, we're going to call her this week just to see how things went, because she had a little sign out front, a couple of balloons, and there was no traffic.
Yeah, excellent.
My son.
Yeah.
So just as a quick note, I don't know, maybe what I'm about to say is controversial here, but I would follow up regardless of whether that other agent was there or not there or blah, blah, blah. You just do your thing.
I thought about that, and I figured since he's not part of Georgia Legacy Group, then it's, open to anyone.
You're
very kind. I would just do my thing.
Yeah. I would too. And the fact that the agent was sitting there makes me, and I don't like to assume, but it makes me think that maybe the agent was newer, maybe. And I think so. Yeah. So
because he mentioned that he knows Nicole Young in our office, and then I reached out to Nicole, and she said, yeah, he's just trying to get his feet wet. He has his license in New York, and I guess he just recently moved here. So I think he's new. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Candace.
No, you didn't. No, that's good. So yeah, so I've had experiences where a more seasoned agent will try and steal the stage, and that's a typical behavior. So anyway, good job, and that's a great experience, and good job for getting out there and going to a FSBO, because that's kind of scary.
Yeah, that was the whole point. Just doing something that's out of my comfort zone, just to kind of move forward a little bit.
Yeah, you did good.
Thank you.
So who else? Anybody else have an experience or something they'd like to share?
Hey, Candace, I'll share.
Hey, Markia, good morning.
Good morning. So I sent over my rights to request repair amendment on Friday, I believe, and everything was accepted. So Only thing that they went down on was the home warranty amount. So my clients is very happy about that, that it wasn't a big back and forth rebuttal. So, well, they have to get everything, most of the stuff they have to give to us 3 days before closing with the receipt. So, yeah, that went really well for us.
Yep. Excellent. Fantastic. It feels good to have things moving forward. Okay, anybody else? All right, well, a couple of housekeeping things. Just gonna say this on behalf of Bill. If you love Bill, report your numbers, please. And not only that, but as a business owner, I think I mentioned last week that that there's an agent in our office, and she's got a successful business, or has a successful business. And she sat down at mega camp when we used to have them physically with Joanne Curtin, who is, of course, the #1 group, I would say, not team, even though it's the Joanne Curtin team, it's a group. But they, anyway, Joanne sat down and she goes, "So what are your conversion numbers?" And this agent was like, "What?" And so knowing your numbers is how you get to be that top aid, that top group, that top team, that top agent. I'm sure Jamie Simpson knows his numbers backwards and forwards. And in the interest of running a business, it's, I think we've said this illustration a lot, but if you had a restaurant and you didn't know how many, salads you were going to make, or you didn't know if you didn't have lettuce for your salads, or you didn't do your inventory, it's kind of like that. And it's just a really good habit to get into when you're new. And the numbers are, even though they're for us to kind of look at and see how you're doing and see where we can plug in and help, the numbers are more for you to understand where you are and what's happening. So report them. If they're not great, don't worry about it. They'll get better. Just report them. Just get in that habit. That's more important than anything. Okay, so today we're going to talk about one of the nuanced subjects of real estate and any business, really. And it's going to be redundant for most of you because most of you are this. In fact, I can't think of anybody who's not this. But we're going to talk about staying professional in the midst of craziness. And did anybody happen to watch that movie, Dare to Dream, The Secret, Dare to Dream? You did? Do you remember, Donna, when they were talking about the male character, the lead male character, and they said he's like the eye of the storm? Or did I make that up?
I don't remember that. Give me a little more context.
Well, I just remember they were talking about the eye of the storm, and they compared somebody to being the eye of the storm. And that's the calm part between the crazy front end of the storm and then the crazy back end of the storm. So we kind of are the eye of the storm in our transactions. And how do we do that? I mean, we deal with difficult clients. We deal with difficult for sale by owners. We deal with difficult expireds. We deal with difficult agents who are being made crazy by what's going on. We deal sometimes with non-communicative lenders, as Bill just had an experience with. We deal with, most of the time the closing attorneys are okay, but sometimes I have to call, they wait till the last minute. They work on the fire that's on their plate that right then. And there have been times when I've called to just, and it's a practice I would recommend you get into, call just to make sure that everything is okay, only to find out they never received the contact information back from the buyer or the seller, and it's a week before closing. That's a problem. So anyway, how do we become those agents that everybody wants to be like, and maintain our calm in the midst of all this? So you know that I always say words have power and communication is key. I'd love to hear from some of you how you're dealing with what's going on out there and how you're maintaining your calm and professionalism. Because I know y'all are out there in the trenches, and I know some of you have had some really interesting experiences. So please share if you have. And there's no right or wrong, no judgment, but engagement helps.
Come on,
So
y'all.
for me, Candace, in the morning, I do 2 10-minute sessions of meditation for gratitude. One of them is, well, the first one I do also is to clear your mind. And I find that I'm much more positive and focused when I meditate in the morning to clear my mind, to just get rid of all those thoughts that come into my head immediately when I wake up. I just start with a clean slate, and I find that to be very, very helpful. And then I follow that up with some kind of positive motivational video for maybe about 10 minutes. But that's how I like to start my day, just with a fresh start.
I love that. And for those of you, I love that, Donna. And for those of you who have not heard about the morning routine, how you start your morning is crucial to how your day goes. And so I just want to encourage, I know that news can be very addictive, but save the news for later in the day after you've accomplished everything that you've wanted to accomplish, if you still watch news. I can tell you some of the leadership in our office don't watch news. And I know that for a fact because it's distracting. It's very distracting. So setting your morning up for success is a huge way to do that. You can also use those guided meditations. For instance, I'll share. I had a deal where it was a little teardown listing down by Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and I had it listed for 55,000, and we got an offer for 100,000. I talked with the agent, and the agent said, this is a legit investor. I've worked with him. He's not going to try and, do anything sneaky. He's going to, he already knows what his numbers are. So this is a legit offer. And so we were going to accept. And there was one thing we needed to clear up, and he disappeared on her. And she said, I have no idea. I've worked with him, probably done 6 or 7 transactions with him. I have no idea what's happened, but he disappeared. And so I had to go back to my seller and say, this is not going to be the offer that we accept. We had multiple offers, but that there's some issues with this offer. And this is where I want to say, it's not necessary to tell your buyer or seller every single thing that the other agent said or single thing that's going wrong. Our job is to facilitate the seller who wants to sell and the buyer who wants to buy. And all the stuff that we go through in the middle of that, they don't necessarily need to know. We need to communicate honestly what's happening, but we can do that in a way that doesn't cause them anxiety, right? So we just said, so I was really anxious. I was like freaking out because I thought, oh my gosh, instead of $80,000 profit, it's going to be more like, $30,000 profit. And that's a big hit. So I went online and I found a guided meditation for anxiety. And I sat there for 15 minutes, and 15 minutes later, I had heard her say over and over, energy goes where energy goes where focus goes. And so I knew I was focusing on what was happening that was bad. And when I came out of that meditation, I was calm. I was able to evaluate the other offers and get back with the seller and help her evaluate the other offers. And she wasn't bothered at all. She was just happy to be under contract. So if I had shared with her all that was going on in my head, it wouldn't have served her at all. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah, and so a lot of times now, we deal with difficult agents. And this is where I'd like to say, it's really important to have an email chain for everything that you do. When you send over an offer, it's please confirm receipt. When you send over an amendment, please confirm receipt. And when you are on the opposite end, whether they ask or not, confirm receipt. That way you have an email chain for everything. And then are there any other situations before I move on that you would like some clarification on as far as how to handle a difficult situation?
So I know you guys have probably shaken your head at me when I've said this in the past, for not, and Candace has specifically given different advice on this, is I don't oftentimes answer my telephone. I'll let it go to voicemail because I want to hear how the other party is communicating whatever message they need to communicate with me. And that will help me understand how quickly I need to react and in what way I need to react. And there's a phrase that I've heard a lot in coaching that says, do not let your reaction be your response, right? And so if you get news and you are like there in the moment, like you're on the phone with the other party, oftentimes your reaction can become your response, or your response can become your reaction. What I think Candace is alluding to is you just got to get the news and then like let it settle for a second. Like it could be settle for like a minute or 30 seconds, but then you can call back, right? When you have decided how you're going to react to it and you've calmed yourself down and you've explored different options of getting past this hurdle or whatever it may be, you know, if you got to remember that um, it's a very small real estate community, right? The second you mouth off to another agent because something didn't go exactly the way you wanted it to go, that could be the end of your relationship. That likely will be the end of your relationship with that agent. And we don't know whether that agent might be the listing agent of the home your next buyer wants. You see what I'm saying? So you do not let your reaction be your response.
I love that. That's crucial. That's just absolutely crucial. So now what do you do if you have an agent who is non-responsive? And here's another, it's something that you think about, but you kind of think about it at the very last. But when you're going on vacation, and if you're an outdoors person and you know you're going to be hiking the Appalachian Trail and you're not going to have signal and you're in the middle of a transaction, partner with somebody in the office and have them let them know what's going on in the transaction so that they can be the go-to person for that other agent. So you can go on vacation and have a clear mind and not delay anything because of forgetting to have a partner. That's a real important one. But what do you do when you have a difficult agent? They bring a bad attitude to the table. They're negative. I think it's the way we phrase words. You catch more flies with honey than vinegar, I think is a true statement. And you can be strong and courteous at the same time. And that's kind of our art form is the staying courteous, but still being strong and facilitating what our client wants. If an agent doesn't respond to calls, emails, or text, they're not doing their job, right? So they might be doing it intentionally, and they might just be not responsible. So it's really important they're actually called your cooperating broker, right? And if they're not being reasonable, I think the first step you do is when you can get with them, you have a one-on-one conversation and you say, how can I help facilitate more consistent communication? And if the agent is like, oh, I'm just so crazy busy, I can't get back to my calls and so on, well, is text easier for you? But if you're getting to and Bill, I hope you agree with this. If you're getting to a point, and this is extreme, where you can't move forward in the transaction because of the other agent, their broker is not their boss, but their broker is responsible for compliance. So I might send an email to the agent with what's needed and copy the broker. And I might start doing that for the rest of the transaction. How do you feel about that, Bill?
I would use that as a last resort,
Yeah,
and I'd
very
probably give them a like, hey, if I don't hear from you in an hour, I'm gonna have no choice but to speak to your broker. Something of that nature. Give them a warning of some sort. Just one more thing on a topic you were saying a second ago is like I was at a closing on Friday, and just as a reminder, guys, and this is why it's so important for you as either the listing agent or the buyer's agent. I know other people might speak differently on this, but it is your responsibility, in my opinion, to mitigate any future issues. So for example, and honestly, I dropped the ball a little bit on this one. Okay, I'm working with the buyer. We got a disclosure statement. Disclosure statement says that there's no transfer fee or initiation fee or anything like that for the HOA. I did not confirm that. Okay, from the and I'm representing the buyer. Okay, from a disclosure standpoint, the contract specifically says that if there is a initiation fee or transfer fee or something that was not disclosed, then it is a seller paid fee. Okay, so in the back of my mind, I'm thinking to myself, whatever, if it's a seller paid fee, then the seller will pay for it. what oftentimes happens is the seller freaks out at the closing table when they realize they're going to pay for it, and then points to the other agents to cough up the money. And oftentimes, because we're tired of dealing with them at that point, we cough up the money. So I didn't actually confirm it. And I had a feeling that that was incorrect. So anyway, a $250 fee shows up on the day of closing for a transfer fee. And I walked into, and of course we're closing separately. So the sellers are closing first, or in their room first. And I asked the attorney to come outside for a second and I say, hey, there's this $250 fee on here. That's an HOA transfer fee, and it was not disclosed in the settlement statement. And he says, you need to sort that out with the other agent. I said, no, I do not need to sort that out with the other agent. Your job is to read the contract and put it on and put it as a fee based on who's supposed to pay it. He says, you have to negotiate that with the other seller. I said, we're done negotiating that. I don't want to go in there pretending like I'm negotiating. This has already been settled. And he ultimately didn't like really the way I was speaking to him. And the other agent came out and said, is there a problem? I said, yeah, there's a $250 transfer fee here that no one disclosed, and therefore it's a seller paid fee. And the other agent, who had been really nice the whole time, was like, whatever, I'll pay that. And my reaction could have been like, well, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, I got what I wanted, and I just walked away. I said, thank you. You see what I'm saying?
Strong and courteous.
Right. So I was strong, close to courteous, right? And she was not particularly courteous, but she did what she was supposed to do. And I got what I wanted for my people. You see what I'm saying? So my point there is, number one, make sure that everything is disclosed properly on that community association disclosure. And you need to know these things so that you don't put your client in an awkward situation later on where you're going to be asked to cough up some commission.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And it's a good time to point out that when we're in the process of a transaction, Pam, you're going to love this. It's really important to have all your I's crossed, I's dotted, and T's crossed. If you send over an amendment and there are two sellers, make sure both sellers' signatures are on that amendment. If you send over anything that you send over, just review it. If it's coming from you, review it, make sure that there's nothing left to guess at. I've been told before that anything that's blank on a contract should be filled in with NA so that no one can write something in.
I have been told that as well, Candace. Unfortunately, in DocuSign, it does not, like, certain fields are only numeric and won't let you put in NA.
Right, but you can put in a 0.
Yeah, there's been some cases where that's not always the best
thing.
Answer. I can't think of the example right now, but there was one. But yes, I agree. I've been told the same thing. Never leave anything blank.
Right. So that can save a lot of some of the difficulties that go on with misunderstanding in real estate. And I think if you are working with an agent and you do have an issue come up, it's really important to ask. I think one of the things that is human nature is to automatically want to blame, but I think sometimes just asking for somebody to be in the solution with you is much more helpful. So for instance, if there's something on the disclosure, if the inspection comes back and there's mold and it was not on the disclosure and the mold is pretty visible, I might talk to the other agent. If I'm the buyer's agent, I might talk to the other agent and say, help me understand how we can create a win-win solution on this. And see what they say, because they might come back and say, oh, the seller's going to mitigate it, and if they don't, I might say something like, well, unfortunately, now that it's a known entity, your seller is going to have to disclose that. And not only that, but they're also living in a situation where it's not healthy for them. So is there anything that we can come to terms with to get this contract moving forward that your sellers can start to understand, that this is an issue that's going to have to be dealt with, if only for themselves, and then see what the agent says. And sometimes you can be just very diplomatic in your persuasion. Everybody has a different style. I'm not saying my style is the only way, I'm just saying that a lot of times if you ask questions before you make statements, you can get a lot farther along with, or further along with your, with progress. Any comments, any ideas, any examples, any issues?
Yeah, I'm dealing with the roof that just will not go away.
So
And-
let me comment on that real fast.
Yeah,
So you can ask the lender to up the price now to 250 if it's okay, if they would approve an amendment to address or to raise the price to the appraisal number 252.
hmm
And that's the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do is you have to, I mean, ultimately the seller is under no obligation to fix that roof, no matter if it's water is coming down on the people all day,
right.
right? So your client just has to say, either I'm going to need to move forward with the house and the roof in the condition it's in, or I'm going to leave the deal. And they have the ability to do that. So thank God that the appraisal did not cause an additional issue here. The question is can, now knowing, or after you get permission from the lender, if we raise the price to 252, is there anything that can be done with this extra money that we would potentially be able to pay for the home? Would you consider, you know, would you add a few $1,000s to closing costs? Would you pay a partial invoice for a roof repair or roof replacement? But if you make, I'm not saying you've done this, but if the bigger deal you make about it, the buyer will think it's even a bigger deal. So you say, look, the roof's in not great shape. We also, there's hardly any homes on the market. We're lucky to be at 250 and the home appraises for 252. Would you like to move forward? Or would you not like to move forward? And then they're going to say, well, okay, fine. I don't want to get back in the car and try this all again. Right.
Yeah.
And look, every property for 250 now is going to have a problem. They all are.
Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
the roof was just the one big one. There's another like $8,000 worth of repairs that I've gotten them to say they would handle. But you know, I don't, this like 20 grand worth of repairs when you add it all up.
Well,
That's-
again, they have to decide if they want to buy the home in the condition it's in, and they're free
Yeah.
not to and leave.
Yeah.
If they agreed to $8,000 worth of repairs that are somewhat not as important as the roof, for example, then scrap all that stuff and say, okay, instead of the $8,000 of blah, 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 you're willing to pay for it, just take care of the roof and we'll call it a day.
Well, they haven't agreed to anything except for radon and termite, which is a non-entity. I mean, like you got to do that.
No, you don't have to do anything.
Really?
Yeah, let's make sure everyone's clear on that. The seller is under no obligation to do squat. High radon, active termite problems, roof problems, blah, 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 blah. Code violations makes no difference. The buyer needs to go into the transaction being incredibly grateful if the seller decides to do anything.
Okay.
So we don't want to give the buyer the impression by any means that if we find problems in the inspection, the seller is going to pay for it. And it's not, honestly, it's not that the seller doesn't care. It's not that the seller doesn't want the buyer to live in a home with active termites or with roof problems or window problems or radon problems. It's that they don't have to fix this to sell the home, most likely.
In this market.
That's right. Well, in any market.
Well, yeah, but especially in this one where there's multiple offers. But sometimes when it's a big item like that, that can keep people from getting insurance, et cetera, I will kind of, kindly remind them that this is likely a repair they're going to see, repair request they're going to see again.
Mhm.
100%. But I would just go in there and say to the buyer, hey, what's your perfect scenario? We know we don't have an appraisal issue now. What's your perfect scenario? And they say, I want a new roof and I want these two other things to be fixed. Say, great. Put it in amendment, send it off and say, I think we'll be incredibly fortunate if we get anywhere close to what you're asking for, but let's try. Right. And ultimately, if they're not prepared to move forward with the property, then they can leave the home. It's fairly unemotional. Either you buy it the way it is or buy it the way they're willing to agree to fix it, or you leave. But don't you start paying for stuff, Greta.
Yeah, no.
I'm already upside down. I mean, I've been with these women forever and this is not an expensive property. So if I break even, I'm calling it a win.
Well, like I said, don't say, well, I'll fix the termite or
Never.
whatever. Don't be
I'm
doing
not
that.
fixing anything.
Okay.
I'm tired.
And sometimes I think, I've seen amendment to address repairs, not in this market, but in other markets where it was 2 pages long. And the sellers are like, no to everything, because it was just too much. So be strategic about what you asked for too. And the thing about the roof, and I would not represent this to my buyers, but if they live through a storm in Georgia after they buy the home and the storm does damage to the roof, they can typically get the roof replaced for the deductible. I just wouldn't make that a strategy going in, because you don't know when we're going to have a storm, or if it's going to damage the roof or not. But that's just for you in the back of your mind.
We can talk offline, Greta, if you want additional help with the strategy.
Yeah.
But
But also the roof needs to be, it needs to have 2 years life left on it. The appraiser has to feel it has the 2 years life. And if the appraiser was okay with it, then,
Yeah.
you kind of have to go with that too.
Okay.
But insurance, if you call insurance out, then you may have an issue, but if you call insurance out, that might be more ammunition for you.
Well, we tried, to get the seller's insurance to look at it, and apparently Allstate and State Farm, neither one will do anything. So
they're not doing squat.
yeah, those
the worst
two
companies
definitely
in
not
town
roof
for-
people.
Yeah, those are the two worst companies in town if you want your roof repaired.
Yep.
Or replaced, I should say.
So we got denied on that. So yeah.
So just to summarize today, and I think we'll be able to let you go early. First action step of the day is report your numbers. That's a good thing. Bill, when are those due?
Oh, so I
What
think,
day of the week?
all right, so we're going back to the old way. I'm going to make it super simple with you guys. So we're going back to the Sunday night reporting each week. So the weeks might be a little strange for the next few of them, but we're going to go back to Sunday night reporting. So clearly we're done with April. If there is any squares that are blank in April, just go ahead and put in what it is. That'd be really, really, really helpful. Okay. And then for May, the first day we're going to report in May is May 9th, I believe, which is next Sunday. Okay, next Sunday. I want to show you guys something really, really fast. I'm trying to decide if I want to give you a guilt trip or not, but I think I'll just let the numbers speak for themselves. Okay, can you guys see this? This is what all my coaches look at every single week. In January, we had 5,700 contacts, February 67, March 62, April 38. If your employee did this, what would you say? What, do you take the whole week off, the whole month off? Database ads, 1,500, 1,400, 1,100, 650. Pipeline, 330, 330, 230, 157. Seller held, 31, 34, 39, 23. What, do you sleep all month? Less than, right? 11, 13, 20 seller listings taken. Everyone's like, oh man, Bill's really working hard with those guys. 9. What do you mean 9? It's springtime. Okay. But if you don't report your numbers, then I look like I'm not doing anything. Does that make sense? I'm not trying to give you a guilt trip here a little bit, but like buyer held 88, 72, 64. I would have given you guys a hard time for this, but we were increasing seller held, which is even better, and seller taken. Now we're not even half. Y'all see that?
And this, Bill, I would say this is a really good sheet for people to be able to have access to and put their own numbers in so that they can track their own conversion.
Oh, so just to make sure everyone understands this is the exact same sheet that y'all see. Okay,
Oh, okay,
this
good.
is April 22nd through 30th, right? The same tab as the 2021 monthly comparison. So you guys can see my numbers. My numbers are right here. Every day I'm updating that. Okay, and you can see the sum total of all of y'all's numbers. What this is telling me is one of two things. I was accused of being soft like 3 times last week. So I'm gonna let you guys have it real fast. Okay. What this tells me is one of two things. Either you're not reporting, which is a little bit of the factor, or you were so busy having the best month production wise in April that you forgot to lead generate. Does that make sense? And I know many of you are not juggling any more than 2 or 3 deals at once. And we're going to need to build some habits, and Candace and I are more than happy to help you. We're going to need to build some habits on handling the chaos of your real estate business only after we talk to people for the day. If we wake up and we immediately go to our voicemail and our email, we will not be able to lead generate. It's not going to happen. You've got to give it a little time to grow your business every day before you start attacking the fires. You just got to trust me on this.
Yeah, that's right. That's true.
Okay, you just got to trust me. You can, whatever you're doing in 8 hours can be done in 7 or 6 hours. I promise you. Okay. So this, I mean, like if I was the team leader and I was looking at my PC coaches and this was the fallout, I'd be like, dude, you're on like a PIP. You're on a performance improvement plan where you're not going to even work here anymore. Like, don't let me get fired now, y'all. Y'all see that?
Yeah, so and report your numbers. Think about, do any of you remember Jamie Simpson from the award ceremony? Yes, he made a big impact. $600,000 of GCI, 41 transactions as a solo agent. He lead generates. He lead generates I'm sure he lead generates every single day, because you have to have those kind of numbers. And so what Bill is saying is absolutely correct. It's really easy to go, oh, I got business. Now I don't have to lead generate. But then what happens then is you get that roller coaster of, I've got a closing next month, but I don't have a closing the following month because I didn't lead generate during this transaction. So don't let that happen to you. It makes our business really, really difficult. It's hard to pay.
Good
It's hard
morning.
to-
My name
Hey,
is
Nadine.
Nadine. Can I have the spelling of your first and last name,
Hey,
please?
Nadine.
Is that for us, Nadine?
Oh.
I guess not.
No.
Yeah, she put herself on mute.
So anyway, just in summary, remember to ask questions. And I will leave you with this: be the change you want to see in the world. I love that. Be the change you want to see in the world. So ask questions before you react, so that you can gather enough information to make an informed response. As Bill said, settle a little bit. If something's going wrong, for every man-made problem, there's a man-made solution. And sometimes we just have to back far enough away that we can see the solution. Ask for the other agent involved, or the other vendor or the lender to be involved in the solution as well. So it's a team effort. And always remember that we're just facilitating a seller who wants to sell and a buyer who wants to buy. Anybody have any questions? Okay,
All right, thanks, Candace.
that's all I got.
All right, don't forget, if you've not registered for a 15-minute session with Candace and I, please do so as soon as possible. The link has been posted several times in the WhatsApps and was also included in the email yesterday. We're learning a lot about you guys and really having fun doing so. So thank you again. And don't forget, today I am hosting a session for the office. So it's going to be on kwroswelltraining.com from 1:30 to 2:30 on business planning. Okay, I might have some new ideas that I've never shared with you guys before. So tune in, please. See you soon.
When is that again, Bill?
That is 1:30 to 2:30 today.
Today, okay.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
All right.
Go Rocket, guys.